Yo, yo, yo. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Comics Are Dope. I'm BJ Kicks, and this is the Hangout. It's a live stream we do every Thursday night about 7 p.m. Eastern. I have to apologize. I'm a little bit late. Had some technical difficulties, but we're here. We're here. So if you're here watching this on the replay, thank you. I appreciate that. And I guess technically you're late, not me. But if you are here watching live, go ahead and give me a what's up in the chat so I know you're here. Bunkmaster B is upset that we're not talking about wrestling comics. We can always talk about wrestling comics. Uh, and let's see. Tayshawn's here. Tim's here. Rupert's here. What's up? What is up? Hope you guys are doing well. Um, let's see. So Ryder says, I've read the comic book history of professional wrestling. Good bit of history in there. Bunk's favorite wrestling comics are Do a Powerbomb, Hell is a Squared Circle, and The Crimson Cage. And fun fact, there is actually an article up at comicsaredope.com that gives a good summary of each of those three. So I'd recommend checking that out at comicsaredope.com. Now, before I get too deep into the show, I do want to give a huge shout out to all the people that make this show possible, not the least of which at all being the channel family. Thank you all. Those of you with the badges in the chat, I think the most tenured channel members have a Nightwing badge right now, which is very cool. I can't lie. It's very cool to see the Nightwing logo flying around in the chat. So thanks to you guys for supporting the channel. I think you can support the channel at the rate of either $2 or $5 a month, and it just gives you some behind the scenes access. I do Q&As and stuff for the channel members, and honestly, it gets you thanked in every video because, again, you guys make this channel and the content on it possible. Now, another shout out to our sponsor, Organic Price Books. Organic Price Books is the best place to go for collected editions online. And, you know, they've been rocking with us we just celebrate our 2-year anniversary this past week, or this past month, I should say. So right now they are having the Stuff Yo Shelves sale. So if you go to organicpricebooks.com right now, you'll see there are tons of books that are discounted, including the Silver Surfer by Dan Slott Omnibus, this new printing, Batman and Robin by Tomasi, The Boys hardcover signed edition. I mean, some of these are up to like 50% off. But anyway, go to organicpricebooks.com and become a jabroni like me. And you can use my coupon code BJKicks at checkout. My dog is barking, which is my wife. Just got home from her walk. So that's funny. My man Jason is here. He says he needs a Superman or a Green Lantern badge. Word. You know, the more members we get, the more badges I'm allowed to like publish. But I think right now if you remember, for 6 months, I think you get the Nightwing badge, and then the next badge levels you up after a year. And then if you stick around for 2 years, you get the coveted Batman badge. Bunkmaster B says that article sounds dope. He's gonna check it out. Kevin's here. What's up, Kevin? How you doing, man? But yeah, Do a Powerbomb is absolute. Like, you gotta read it. It came out in trade paperback 2 or 3 weeks ago. So you should be able to find it pretty easily at your LCS or on Amazon for sure. Let's see. Does Organic Price Books have it in stock? Yes, it came out March the 1st, so it's more than 3 weeks ago. And it's back ordered right now at OPB, but rest assured, you'll be able to get it. Comics Joe says, what's up? How you doing, man? How you doing, Joe? And Bunk says that Nightwing badge is pretty sweet. By the way, you may have noticed that Bunkmaster B just added a couple words to his screen name. He is now Bunkmaster B on comics. And every Monday, he's dropping a comic book video. Sometimes it's a review of a particular story. This most recent one was a review of this most recent story arc in Power Rangers, so 101 to 106. You should definitely check out his content. It's pretty dope, if I say so myself. I do. I do. Comics Joe or Bunk says code name Ric Flair from Scout Comics is a cool book. I've not read it. I can't lie. I'm not like the biggest um not the biggest wrestling fan. Like I watched wrestling in the 90s, early 2000s like kind of everyone did, back when The Rock and Stone Cold and Triple H and The Undertaker were like the biggest names on earth. I remember for sure like sort of the beginning of the John Cena era, and that's about it. Anything that happened after John Cena got big, I couldn't tell you. I know enough to like recognize popular names like The Miz. Is it The Miz? But that's really it. That's really it. V himself says, I got a notification of the stream while at work. Came to the bathroom to say, what's up, stream? It's kind of weird us talking to you in the bathroom. But hey, what's up, dude? What's up? How do you have this on Facebook Live and YouTube? We do that via StreamYard. And so, yeah, we do. On StreamYard, you're able to simulcast, which is to cast to more than one destination simultaneously. And so, yeah, I think I can stream to like 3 or 4 different destinations. There aren't 3 or 4 different destinations that, require my attention. So I like to try to keep the community on Facebook engaged as well. So it's just a new thing. Rider Battle says the Miz is like the Energizer Bunny, still going. Word, word. Yeah, I'm trying to remember like who was like on top. Like, I don't know. I kind of fell off of wrestling when The Rock fell off of wrestling. The Miz started on The Real World. That's a bit of trivia that I didn't know. That's crazy. Menterprise is here. What's up, dude? Comics Joe says, I just watched 1999 No Mercy last night. The main event was Stone Cold versus Triple H, 10 out of 10. Word. I have never, that is hilarious. I have never seen any of like the pay-per-view events like WrestleMania, whatever big thing they were always promoting during the stream on regular TV. I never saw any of that. Comics Joe says, who's next on your podcast? I don't have any guests lined up for the foreseeable future. There's some names floating around, nothing on the schedule. So the next episode of the podcast, though, will be Skip and I talking about indie comics. And Skip has a particular affinity for indie comics. And a lot of my favorite stories as of late have been indie comics, even though I don't venture into them as much. So we're just going to have a conversation about what the merit is a weird way to put it, but sort of the draw or the romance toward indie comics and what someone like me, who I would consider myself like a general indie outsider, if that makes sense, what someone like me could gain from adding more independent titles to the pull list. And then we'll also get some of Skip's recommendations for just good indie books. So Jason says, any Marvel or DC Omnis coming out you're looking forward to this year? I mean, there's always something I'm looking forward to, but I also like kind of always am what's the word? I have too many books is what it is. So like, yes, there are definitely titles that I'm excited about. But I've kind of been unplugged from the Omni news lately just because I know that there's not a whole lot of room, a lot of space that I have for these books. Let's look though. Let's see what's coming out. I used to try to keep my pull list on the PRH Comics website, but I've noticed that every time I leave the website and come back, it like kicks me out basically, or kicks out my selections. So I can tell you in the next few weeks to months, the Batman Spawn Deluxe Edition I'm looking forward to. Next up would be, and that comes out in April, if I'm not mistaken. April 4th. That's next Tuesday, my wedding anniversary. There are some others. Like I know that there's a Superior Spider-Man omnibus coming later this year. Spider-Man by Dan Slott coming out, like book 1 or the Big Time, I think is what I don't know. One of those. That's a book that I'm excited for. Deadpool and Cable. Some milestone hardcovers coming out. Spider-Man by Chip Zdarsky is getting an omnibus. I don't know if that's this year or early next year, but that's something that I'm just off the top of my head, I'm excited about. Avengers by Hickman Volume 2. Secret Warriors by Hickman. So that's a few. I won't go through the whole solicits for the rest of the year. But yeah. SmackDown PS1 games back in the day, specifically SmackDown Know Your Role. Doug, what's funny is like I wasn't allowed to have like wrestling games, right? But my homie, his name was Sean. I don't know whatever happened to that kid, but we would go to his house. He had all the wrestling games, and it was just funny because he always like wrestled as girls, like, and so yeah, that was his thing. Comics Joe says, I'll be your next guest if we talk wrestling. Bunk says, can't wait for that. The first 3 issues of the Comics Are Dope podcast were great. Excited for more. I did say I was going to call them issues, didn't I? So, and I haven't fully decided on a format, right? The thing about having guests is it's probably most expedient for a guest to show up around the time they have something to promote, right? So, Silver Surfer Ghostlight issue 3 comes out in a couple weeks, maybe next week, right? And so like there's a sort of temptation to maybe call up John Jennings and like, hey, let's talk about Silver Surfer Ghostlight issue 3. And that's cool. There's a place for that, but that kind of dates the show or the episode. And what I'm more interested in is having a conversation around like just full on stories, right? So I would love to talk about this like when the trade comes out or something, or have a conversation with a creator about a certain aspect of their career or their creativity versus a book that's coming out. And you know, there's pros and cons with that approach, right? The pro is you get like a really cool conversation that people might want to refer to it later. The con is that's not helping me sell a book today. So yeah, I don't know. But I'm certainly excited to have more voices in the Comics Are Dope podcast. So myself and Skip are going to tag team a lot, but I think I'm going to do like a few episodes at least where I bring in people from the general comics community, and we'll do like that as well. And yes, exactly, Bunk. So my idea is that if we're going to talk about stuff that's like super timely in the news right now, the Hangout is the place for that. Comics Are Dope Live is the place for that. But then on the podcast, that's when we'll have like the deep dive discussions go inside the comic studio. So that's where I'm at with it. I've just got to do a better job, or my schedule's going to open up a lot when our youngest child starts daycare in a couple months. And then I'll be able to say, all right, we film on Tuesdays, so let's talk on Tuesday or whatever. And I can get a schedule and do more admin work around the podcast, because sometimes rounding up guests takes just as much time as everything else. But yeah. Bunk says, a new graphic novel from Junie Ba and Hassan Otsman El How coming in October. Really excited for that. What's it called? Let's see. So if I just type Junie Ba graphic novel, is that gonna tell it? Nah, that's giving me some older stuff. The Unlikely Story of Felix and Macabre. That's dropping. comics news is so sucky. It's so hard to find the information you want to find. Jason says he'd love to be on the show one day. We could talk about video games and comics. Only problem with that is I don't play video games. I don't know much about video games. The last video game I played, and this is going to date me, right? There are two games that I played on PS2 that I remember vividly. The first is Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time. Never beat that game. I got very close. Never finished that game. The second was 50 Cent Bulletproof, and I absolutely beat that game. Playing as 50 Cent and the rest of G Unit, just shooting people up. That game was underrated. I'd find a PS2 just to play that game tomorrow. But yeah, that game was dope. Like you could okay, anyway. I'm gonna say something that's gonna get me demonetized talking about this 50 Cent video game. But yeah, those were the last games I played. I never got a PS3, 4, 5. I do kind of want one though. I do kind of want a PS5 because there's a new Wolverine game. There's some other Marvel game. I think, then there's going to be another Spider-Man game. There's a bunch of stuff going on. Flash by Night says, you got my PS3 stories beat. Word? Listen, man. So, like, when I played video games as a kid, like, my mom would get us the latest console. The latest console was almost always our Christmas present. Like, I remember finding my PlayStation 2 in the downstairs, like, under the stairs closet. I remember finding my PlayStation 1 in my mother's, like, bedroom or master closet, right? Like, I have vivid memories of getting new consoles, but we got games like once or twice a year. So Christmas, my brother would get me like the new Madden because my brother was older than I was. And then my mom might get me a game for my birthday. And that was it. That was it. So we didn't really have a whole lot of video games like that. And somehow they always kept us busy because I'd get a game for my birthday and my younger brother might get a game for his birthday. So my younger brother, he got all the racing games. He had Midnight Club 3, the dub edition, or was it 2? He had Need for Speed. So he would get all the racing games. I would get like either some sort of like shoot 'em up game or the latest Tony Hawk. That's what I would get. So yeah. Hey, it looks like this show is about dope wrestling comics and games after all. It's true. It's true. It's the Hangout, man. We just talk about the Hangout. We hang out and talk about whatever. New Spidey has Venom in it. Very excited for that. Word. Marvel Spider-Man 2 drops in the fall of this year. And there's also a Black Panther and Captain America game. Yes, that's true. You know what? I need to call up the homie Jeff Thorne and see what information we can get out of him about that game because he's in the writer's room for that game. Flash says, my bread and butter was fighting arcade games. Word. The only fighting arcade game I had was, and this is also going to date me, I had Virtua Fighter 2 on the Sega Saturn. That's the only arcade fighting game I remember. I never had the Street Fighter games or Mortal Kombat, none of that. I had to go to my cousin's house to play those. But yeah. I played Tekken. We like rented Tekken from Blockbuster one time, which was a thing that people did. That is crazy. Jason says he couldn't get into superhero video games for some reason. He has a box disc version PS5 for me. Doug, I'd be paying that PS5 off for the rest of the year. I just can't do it. I've got to buy a new camera this year. I got to buy a new audio interface this year. And I got to buy a house next year. So yeah. A milestone 30th anniversary 1 in 50 foil variant just came in the mail. That's what's up. Speaking of things just coming in the mail, thanks for getting us back on topic. It is time for recent pickups, where I show you some things that came in the mail recently, right? So let's talk about what's on the recent pickups this week. Oh, that is terrible, Bunk. I'm going to highlight that in a second. There's a few things that I've picked up recently. All right, we'll start with this, the thing I bought. This is the Static Shock New 52 trade by Scott McDaniel and John Rosen. And I'm assuming it's colors by Andy Owens, because Scott McDaniel did the art himself. Andy Owens was one of the inkers, as was Jonathan Glapion. But anyway, this was the New 52 Static series. This series was kind of controversial in that the writers of the series, John Rosen and Scott McDaniel, who's also the series artist, had quite a dispute over this. So after issue 6, John Rosen left the title. Mark Bernardin, who you might know from the Fat Man on Batman or Fat Man Beyond podcast with Kevin Smith, filled in for the last 2 issues, and the series got canceled. And you know, if you watched my History of Static video, or Who is Static video, then you know that I tell people to skip this series. I bought it because my Milestone collection is complete, and now I just keep buying things because it's still Milestone stuff. So that, and also, well, join the Discord group and I'll tell you the other reason I bought this book. So that's one thing I got. And then Jonathan Glapion was on that. He inked Greg Capullo on New 52 Batman. Met him last year. Cool guy. Inkers get no respect. Yes, this is the Bastard Child Static run we don't talk about. Yes. Yes, Jonathan Glapion is a dope inker. In fact, he did a few issues of this Static run. He's the inker on a few of these issues, but he specifically, I know for a fact, did issue 1. So yeah, cool stuff. Another thing that came in the mail very recently, back in the day, I did a review. Not back in the day, like 2 weeks ago, I did a review of this. This is Silver Surfer Ghostlight issue number 2. And I posted it here on the YouTube channel, as well as I posted it on IG, Instagram. And lo and behold, the writer of that series, John Jennings, reached out to me like, yo, I like your comic takes. Do you read stuff that's not just superheroes? And I was like, yeah, I'll read stuff that's not just superheroes. And he's like, cool, what's your address? And he sends me this. This is the entire collection so far of the Megascope line over at Abrams Comic Arts. So John Jennings actually curates these books that are written by Black and Brown creators or feature Black and Brown characters. So this is Queenie, Godmother of Harlem, which is actually based on a true story about a real woman, Stephanie St. Clair, who was an infamous criminal in Harlem in the 1930s. So basically during the Harlem Renaissance period. So that's an interesting and unexplored time. John Jennings, by the way, also curated the Bitter Truths essays in the Bitter Root omnibus, but also just the regular issues. You would see them in the back of each issue. And that's a series that's also set during the Harlem Renaissance. That's just an interesting connection. Here's another. This is The Eightfold Path, written by Stephen Barnes, illustrated by Brian Christopher Moss. Also written by Dr. Charles Johnson. Basically, this takes, it's a graphic novel anthology of interconnected Afrofuturistic parables inspired by the teachings of Buddha. So that's interesting stuff there. We got Black Star. Honestly, I could talk about these books. I'm just going to show them to you because I'm going to do a whole different video giving you guys a closer look at the Megascope line. But it's really cool because these are all stories that kind of feature Black and Brown characters. And it's not so much like, a lot of times you get like Black people in comics or just media in general. And it's like hyper focused on like civil rights or slavery or Reconstruction. These are like, some of these are like horror stories. Some of these are like really futuristic. It's really cool to be able to see, minorities, African Americans, Afro Caribbeans, Afro Latinos in books that kind of celebrate the breadth of culture outside of like the lens of trauma. So I'm very excited to show you guys some of these. Like this one just reminds me of Carnival, which is, you know, an Afro-Caribbean tradition. And my grandfather's from the Virgin Islands, and so this one hits close to home for me. It's called Hard Ears. So yeah, I want to give this more of a spotlight that I can give it on a live stream. The Last Count of Monte Cristo, which is basically an adaptation of the Count of Monte Cristo. Um, and apparently it's like more true to form because the guy who wrote the Count of Monte Cristo had like a black grandfather or something like that. But like, look at the art. When I'm talking about these, they sound like really important, like historical texts. But then like when I talk about them, it almost sounds like they're not comics, but they are comics. So yeah, anyway, I'm very excited to get into these, give you guys an overview. That's going to be like a 30-minute video. It'll come out probably next week, Monday. So that is one package from one publisher that I'm super grateful to John Jennings and the team over at Abrams for sending that over, because that marks the first time I've ever received a package directly from a publisher. So that was really cool to get that in the mail in the Hachette books box, right? And then this just came in the mail, like right before I started streaming. That's part of the reason I was late. This is a box from the good people over at Dynamite Entertainment. I have to be careful to make sure like my address isn't on the screen. But I don't know. Oh gosh, it's packing peanuts in here. I don't know what is in this box exactly. I know of one thing. Trying to open a package without spilling the packing peanuts everywhere. All right, so that's a bag with a book in it at least. And this is another bag with another book. So we're going to see what's in here. Oh, very cool. So right on time. This is Supercade, a visual history of the video game age from 1985 to 2001. When Dynamite reached out to see if I would want to cover this, I told them, I was like, it's funny. 2001 is about the time I got out of this stuff. I think probably 2003, 2004. But like, I'm excited because you tell me if it's a book about video games, I'm like, yeah, sometime around the Xbox, you're gonna lose me. But no, this covers everything that I actually know about video games. So I'm gonna be excited to do an overview of this book, Supercade. So huge shout out to the team over at Dynamite Entertainment, Dynamic Forces, for sending this over. And that means this is the bag or box of extras. And let's see. By the way, guys, like this is supposed to be a separate video. So I have to like do another video and act like I'm surprised at all the stuff that's there. But let's see what else is in here. Oh, snap. Okay. All right. So, fun fact, I had been talking to the team over at Dynamite for a little while about possibly doing something. But you guys know, I try to keep my channel like super family friendly. I don't really read books that aren't super family friendly. And so, you know, kind of missed opportunities a lot. But, you know, Dynamite now has the license to Disney. And yeah, they've got the license to Disney. And so here are a few rare covers, right? So first of all, this is Darkwing Duck issue number 2. This is a textless, trade dress less version cover by Mirka Andolfo that I know Bunk is jealous of. but I'm excited. I'm excited about this one. This is Darkwing and Quackerjack on the cover. And also, we've got this very cool copy of Gargoyles. I can't remember if this is Gargoyles number 2 or number 1. Oh, no. This is Gargoyles number 1, the Virgin edition of Gargoyles number 1 by Amanda Connor. And it's got a certificate of authenticity. So that's cool. I think that's signed by Nick Barucci. That's dope. Did this one come with a certificate? Oh, this also came with a certificate. Yeah, Andolfo Version Edition, a specially limited series of copies. That's cool. Also, another copy of Gargoyles issue number 1. This is a David Nakayama version edition as well. Love this cover. Love this cover by DNA. So we got all of that. And as a giveaway to somebody, I don't know who or how we're going to do this, but we've got 2 copies of, or 1 copy each, Vampirella by Christopher Priest, Volume 1 and Volume 2, both entitled Seduction of the Innocent. So, yeah, we'll figure out how to give those away. But all in all, a very cool package from Dynamite Entertainment. The steal of the litter, pick of the litter for me. It's definitely this Darkwing cover that the light is covering up. I love this cover. But I also love this one as well. But yeah, we're getting closer and closer to giving some stuff away. What are we at? Our next milestone is 8,000. I guess we're about 500 away from that. I don't know. How many subscribers do we have? Oh, we got like 700 to go before we hit 8,000. Yeah. So we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. I'll probably do an exclusive giveaway for someone who is actually signed up for the newsletter. So if you're not, go to thisweekincomics.com to join the newsletter and learn about the next time we're going to give something away. Fun fact, Bunkmaster B can tell you all about some giveaways. Tim says, first live unboxing, I guess. Yeah, sometimes I do that because I don't like doing unboxings on the channel or relying on unboxings for views. So yeah. Bunk says, oh, dang, that Mirka, my heart. Nick signed that. He's the president of Dynamite. He's got a sick original art collection, including the original art for the entire Black Panther number 2, first appearance of Shuri. Oh, that's dope. That's dope. Torsten's here. He says, what's up? How's it going, Torsten? Hope you're doing well. But yeah, man, much love to Dynamite for that package. That's just really, really awesome. And I love that, got some stuff we can give away as well. So thanks for showing love to the channel as well as the community. It does not go unnoticed. It's very much appreciated. So thanks, Dynamite. And yeah, with all of that, I guess we can get into tonight's topic. Bunk says, not only do you get an awesome newsletter delivered to your inbox weekly, but sometimes you get a static polybag reprint. Yeah, I did a surprise giveaway for the polybag static facsimile edition a few weeks ago. I guess I gave it away at the time that the issue came out. It just didn't get to Bunk's mailbox until a couple days ago. YouTube superstar Torsten is here. Is Torsten a YouTube superstar? What am I missing? I guess I need to get to know people. Now I'm searching for Torsten. And I'll find him later. Bunk's doing a giveaway. How's shipping coming along? All of my 23 subscribers. But yeah, so yeah, if you go to thisweekincomics.com, it'll ask you for your name and your email address. I suggest you give both. That way I can get in touch with you. I can know who you are. And I can share cool comics news and giveaways with you. So yeah, that's that. And that was all I've got. Is that all I got for recent pickups? Yeah, that's all I got for recent pickups. So let's get on to the reviews of the week. Man, we're moving along kind of slow tonight. I gotta pick this pace up. So, of all the books I picked up this week, I've only read two of them so far. I started off with this, The Ambassadors by Mark Millar and Frank Quitely. Is it Millar or Miller? I've heard it both ways. But I actually wrote a review of this for the website Comics Are Dope. So you can go to comicsaredope.com to read kind of my more thorough thoughts on it. All I'll say here is that I was intrigued by the concept, right? 8 billion people, six can have superpowers. Who do you choose? And we find out that this lady on the cover is actually like basically the Willy Wonka of superpowers and is going to choose through some sort of series of competition or trials or whatever who gets to have powers and represent their country on her team of ambassadors. So, really intriguing concept. I love the execution on issue one. And each issue is going to have a different superstar artist. So, yeah, he's got me. Mark Millar has got me. So that was that. I didn't give it a number rating. I probably shouldn't give comics number ratings all the time because my numbers are super arbitrary, but I give it a solid 8 out of 10. 8.5 ish. Then Action Comics issue 1053. This book was really good. It's written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, art by Rafa Sandoval, who PKJ just stole. They just stole it from from Black Adam. But Rafa on Action Comics is definitely a good move. Definitely a good move, even if I miss his art elsewhere. So basically, we know that Metallo is just like basically possessing a bunch of people, and we get to see that in action. Um, and yeah, we get to see that in action, and I don't know. There's not really a way for me to tell you what happens without spoiling it. So read it for yourself. What I'll say is the art was good. The story was good. It was well paced. It was action packed. It was suspenseful. Maybe more suspenseful than action packed, but both of those things. Um, and and the art's really good. The only thing that kind of bothered me about this book is DC has switched to doing like printing a lot of their single issues on like this newsprint style. And I just feel like the art doesn't pop as well or as much as it should on this newsprint. Like, for as much as Rafa Sandoval's art is amazing, and the colors are also good. Like, they're really good. The colors, the special effects, and let's see who does those. I gotta shout out the colorist when I can. Where's the credits page? Why they put it like everywhere in the comic and not just on the front page? Am I tripping or are there no credits in this book? All right, League of Comic Geeks it is, because I want to shout out the colorist. Oh, and there's like 4 colorists, of course, because, there's 3 different stories in here. Looks like Elizabeth Brightweiser, or Matt Herms, or both. Anyway, whoever does the colors is great, but the colors just don't pop as well when they're on newsprint. So I'm excited to get this in some sort of hardcover, hopefully a deluxe hardcover, or just read it digitally when it shows up on the streaming apps in a month to really appreciate the color work that's being done. Because it's a shame that the colors are so good and the paper is not. Anyway, story was good. I didn't read the backups, so that's that. That's that. See that action into action. Yeah, there's a lot of action in Action Comics, and that's why I like it. That's part of why I like it. There's action, there's family. What I will say about this run so far, Philip Kennedy Johnson is doing a great job of reminding you why Superman is great. There are so many moments in this book where Superman is teaching someone like how to be more human, like, or more humane. And it's like a reminder that Superman is always going to do stuff the best way that they can be done. So that was really cool. I enjoyed that about this run, and he did it on War World, right? But this element of Superman basically teaching these new kids how to be, how to live amongst humans and do things the right way or do good for the sake of good. It's just great. It's just great. So yeah, that's what I'm liking about the Action Comics run, and you get all of that and a bunch of action too. The only knock is I'm not reading these backup stories. I'm just not. Let's see what happened. Elizabeth is one of the absolute best in the business right now. Worked on a few projects with Fubaker, as well as the TKO book Sarah. Skip says miss her working with Fubaker. Love Liz's colors as most likely Liz. Got it. Got it. Skip says he fell asleep to Mark Millar talking to Frank Quitely, woke up to Kicks in the Hangout. I tried listening to Mark Millar talk to Frank Quitely yesterday when I was cleaning up my office. And what I do is I'll try to, if I'm listening to like a podcast or an interview or whatever, I'll turn off my screen and just listen, like just audio experience, because I find if the screen is on, then I'm just like basically sitting here watching it and not cleaning. Anyway, I couldn't do that because Mark Millar and Frank Quitely, I couldn't distinguish their voices enough from each other. They both got accents. I don't know if they're Scottish or what the accents are, but I couldn't distinguish them enough to just listen to their voices. And so, yeah, that's how that happened. Sorry that I'm not listening to that interview. Skip says you owe me a Coke, Bunk, or you owe him a Coke. You know what? I've got a reward points for a free 20-ounce soda at Sheets. I forgot about that until you just said Coke, and now I want one. So I might go get one. Finish it. It's so good, bro. Their old antics were hilarious. Yeah, it's just one of those things that I have to actually watch. And so now it's like it's in the same territory as a Snyder Cut. Like, yo, why is this interview 2 hours long? But yeah, I'll watch it. I'll watch it. Because I really enjoyed that issue. And that was why I wanted to listen to the interview. But yeah, so those were the two books I read this week. Action Comics, I'm giving a solid. I'd probably also give that an 8.5 as well. It was really good. I don't know. It might just be my superhero bias. I might give it like a slight edge over the Ambassadors, but Superman's got to get or Action Comics has to get a knock because there's mad pages in here that I didn't read. And so if you include it in the book, it kind of has to count against you, right? I can't just rate your A story, although that's exactly what I did. So yeah. So we've avoided the elephant in the room long enough, I guess. This week there was an article that came out saying that I don't know, some dude got fired from Marvel and Disney, and that the comics division, or that Marvel Entertainment, which is the division that houses everything apart from Marvel Studios, including Marvel Comics at Disney, is now going to be folded in to Disney and sort of absorbed by Disney and or Marvel Studios or whatever. And so of course the speculation was, oh, this is the end. Marvel has seen its last days. And then there was another article that came out by Rich Johnston that was like, hey, actually, Marvel's still gonna be Marvel and untouched. And I don't know, man. Speculation is speculation anyway. So yeah, that kind of took the steam out of some people's reactionary takes. But yeah. And so it just this is a fun all right, Miss Negative says the first backup story in Action has been dope. The one with Lee Weeks. It was John Kent discovering, what did he discover? Like a space pod? I forgot. It was like okay to me, but I remember them saying like it like harkened back to or was connected to the Death of Superman 30th anniversary special and like a character that was introduced there. And I didn't read that special. So yeah. Bunk says, what if those backups were good? You just chose not to read them. How are you going to hold that against it? That's true. That's a fair point. It's just that the backups weren't amazing the last 2 times I tried to read them. And so this time I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to try to read them. To me, they weren't. Well, the Lee Week story was like fine. And then the Power Girl story, I was just completely uninterested in. Can you downgrade the book because you didn't want to read it? Yeah, I guess not. I can only rate what I've read. I can't say, all right, well, this book is only a 6 out of 10 because I didn't want to read this other part of it. And that means it must have been bad. Yeah, that's fair. You see, Marvel announced a new Blade book. Not sure if it'll be an ongoing, but they got a pretty good writer. They got Brian Edward Hill, who I was hoping might write Black Panther. But Eve Ewing's got Black Panther on lock. I'm just glad that there's a Blade book. I've never read a Blade book. I've seen the first Blade movie. Maybe the second. I don't know which Blade movie it was. I saw it when I was like a kid. Yeah. So I'm excited because there's been a lot of people that were like really upset that there was the Bloodline Daughter of Bane or Blade book, but not an actual Blade book. And now those fans will have a Blade book that they can pick up on shelves. And hopefully it lasts for as many issues as they want it to last. And hopefully they buy it. Hopefully it sells well. Hopefully all the creators involved have their quality of life enriched because of it. Blade doesn't seem like a Kicks movie. Blade was not a Kicks movie, or is not a Kicks movie now, which is why I haven't seen Blade 2 or 3. But I definitely remember like the bloodbath that was Blade 1. Still like Wesley Snipes as Blade, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know that Blade needs to be Wesley. Have you seen Wesley Snipes now? Like, I don't know, man. That dude went to jail and they like zapped all of his life force out of him. Like, he came back looking like every bit of like 70 years old. It was definitely a skit movie. Word. That's interesting. Since last year, DC has been publishing a series of silent comics called Speechless on DC Universe Infinite. There was some sort of a trademark battle. And so now DC is not, oh wow, DC is no longer publishing this book entitled Speechless. So now they're gonna have to change the name. They've changed it now to Silent Tales instead of Speechless. So okay, interesting. But yeah, so I gotta go back and find all of my Ike Perlmutter news. So I'm gonna look at the whole thing. So Ike Perlmutter apparently had been like inside of Marvel Comics for quite some time. Like before they got sold to Disney, he was on their board, or running some portion of their business, and had been a part of the company for decades. He's the one that sold Marvel to Disney for $4 billion in 2009. Interesting. He's the one that set up Toy Biz. Marvel bought Toy Biz, which is how Perlmutter got on the board. He got elevated to chairman of the board during the Disney or Marvel bankruptcy. Wow. Anyway, the point is he was a super rich dude, and he is responsible for a lot of Marvel's success up to a certain point. He apparently had been butting heads with some of the other higher ups at Disney. They finally like forced him out, and that's that. It's super boring business stuff, but there's the Kicks notes. That's the short version. So they forced this dude out. But the key word that a lot of people like kind of latched onto was when he was at, or when they gave him a reason for him being ousted. Um, that that reason was that the Marvel Entertainment business was redundant. So whenever you hear about a redundancy in business, it's not a good thing because that typically means there's going to be layoffs and stuff like that, right? Like we saw it with Comixology most recently, right? Like Comixology got to be its own little miniature company inside of Amazon for as long as it made sense for them to just do stuff on their own. But at a certain point, it's like, all right, we got to like just put all these resources, make everything standard so that stuff isn't working one way on Kindle and one way on Comixology. So then they finally consolidated the software. And then if you don't need two separate software teams, then it's time to cut the fat, trim the fat, so to speak. So anyway, when you hear about stuff like that happening, or you hear about let's say any startup being acquired and eventually starting to look like the new parent company, there's like this um sense, this fear, this sort of um I don't know. I don't know. There's speculation that there is some higher up that is like looking deeper and deeper at what this smaller company is doing, right? So in this case, it's Marvel Entertainment. So the idea is, or the speculation is, okay, well, Marvel Entertainment was doing its own thing, and as long as they were profitable or whatever, no one cares. Now that it's a part of just regular Marvel public or Disney publishing or whatever, maybe the people from the publishing side at DC are going to look at what Marvel's doing and then be like, yo, why are you doing any of this? Shut down all these books or whatever, right? That's kind of where the speculatory or speculative talk online has been. Um, I don't know that it's going to get that deep. I don't, I think, the attitude at both Marvel and Disney, or excuse me, and DC, Warner Brothers and Disney, respectively, has been that, hey, the comics are important if for no other reason than as intellectual property that we can mine from to make movies, TV shows, and so on. And so if you believe like any of the public statements that Jim Lee has made when he's asked about the future of DC since the Warner Brothers acquisition and so on, um, you know, I would imagine the same sort of stuff applies to Marvel, or at least whatever public facing statements they would make about it. Um, but yeah, it really just gave me an excuse to say that the sky's not falling, at least not as quickly as anyone thinks it is. And that's how that's how I ended up picking it as a topic, even though the more I talk about it, the less I want to talk about it. But another big thing though, and a couple people are hitting on it here in the comments. Ike Perlmutter had a reputation as being a jerk, terrible to work with. One of those, the stereotypical like uh, angry businessman dude. Um, and there's also stuff about like his political leanings and fundraising and stuff like that. Um, yeah, there's a lot of different stuff about Perlmutter. Um, but I mean, for the purposes of this conversation, I don't know that it's super important to the story. Um, oh wow. Wow. That's a wild statement. So I'll let you guys read about Ike Perlmutter himself, or yourselves. But there's some wild accusations about this man and some of the things he said to other people, um, specifically Marvel editor in chief or former editor in chief Bob Harris. That's insane. This is a side of comic book podcasting I don't care to be in. Why did I pick this topic? Skip says he thought Feige being president of Marvel Entertainment would improve the comics, but in 2 years haven't felt its impact. So On one hand, I like the idea of one person sort of presiding over the media and comics portions of these businesses, right? Like Jeff Johns was DC's chief creative officer for quite some time. And during such time, he still was writing classic runs on characters like The Flash, like Justice League, like the JSA, and so on, right? And I like the idea in theory that whoever's in charge is making sure that the comics line up with the movies, the TV shows, the video games, and so on, making sure that if you go out and you see DC Comics anywhere, you know what you're looking at. That's one of the complaints that came up when we were talking about how can we make comics better, right? And I think for the most part, DC does a better job at this, right? Having their characters, be their iconic selves, sort of no matter what. I think, you know, for the most part, if you see a Batman book on a shelf, you know what you're gonna get. Same with Wonder Woman, Superman, and pretty much all the marquee names. Um, Maybe not so much with Green Lantern, but still. Um, yeah. So I like that idea, but just as a very small time version of a businessman, right? If I've got one product that I sell or one activity that I focus on that makes me billions with a B, do I really care about this other thing that nets me a few million? Like, no, because I got something that's making me like 1,000 times more money. So I don't know how or what the best version of one man or one team overseeing it all looks like. It almost feels like it needs to be separate, like the comics need to be some small business elsewhere. And like when it's time to make a movie, the studios make the movie, you know. Disney did dissolve their comics division and just license it out now. So I understand why people are concerned because Marvel has been even more absorbed into Disney. Disney CEO has been cutting jobs and redundant businesses to save Disney $5 billion in operating fees. So there's validity there, but the sky isn't falling yet. And it's also an opportunity for Marvel to tighten up the ship with a new, more streamlined business model. Marvel published way too many comics just to be able to say they own the biggest market share. Yeah, yeah. No, there's definitely there. Marvel definitely was publishing like way too many books, way too many variants of way too many books, um, for sure. But I mean, DC is guilty of it too. Um, yeah, man. I don't know, right? Like, do we want Marvel and or DC to operate more like, say, an Image does, right? Like, I don't like with a lot of the other comic book publishers, you hear about financial woes, right? Like, is it Boom? Is it Boom that is like just like, oh no, it's IDW. That stock price is like pennies and stuff, right? And they keep banking on Hollywood projects and not quite getting it done. And you're seeing like other smaller publishers kind of go under because they're paying all these people to make comics, hoping that they can get it optioned and produced into a TV show and make their money on the TV show back end, right? Um, but say something like Image, right, where they're primarily still a comics publisher. Yeah, stuff gets optioned. That was an Image book all the time. And I don't know how Image splits that with the creators, or if Image splits that at all with the creators, or if the creators get all of that option money and all that back end type stuff. I don't know. I don't know. But I say that to say I don't hear about Image having money problems. So, like, do we want Marvel to operate more like Image, where you know everything's a mini series? There's a few things that are ongoing, like Spawn, and those things that are ongoing, like Spawn and Savage Dragon, are done. They're going on because they're the lost leader, or they're the passion project, or like Todd's making enough money in toys to where he can just do it, like, you know, because he wants to, right? Um, do we want, like, is that the answer? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm less speculative because I just don't care as much, right? Like, I'm not a huge Marvel Comics fan, so like I couldn't tell you enough about what Marvel's doing. I read a lot of DC on my general pull list. I'll tell you what though, Marvel's collected editions are just leaps and bounds above DC's, even though my DC collection is kind of bigger than my Marvel collection. You ain't gonna hear about that at Image, most likely because Image doesn't own the IP and studios underneath their umbrella. Totally different business model. True, true. Hard to compare the Marvel model to Image. Image is entirely creator owned and way smaller numbers. Right. So if we're operating on in a market that's just way bigger than everybody else, right? Like there's Marvel and DC, and then there's everybody else, and everybody else doesn't come close, right? Does it make sense to cut back, right? Like, how do you measure your success? Is it just in the profit and loss? Do you just kind of bank on having the market share and the visibility and stuff, right? Because the other thing is like, as long as Disney's profitable, like it's not the Marvel, there's no Marvel stock price, right? So as long as Disney's profitable and the Disney stock price is up, it doesn't really matter which divisions are profitable versus others, right? So you can afford to not make a bunch of money in comics. Now, if your market share is overinflated and people aren't really buying your comics, then maybe that's a different issue. But it, we're also kind of insulated from it because everybody buys the book. Like Marvel has already made their money far before, like before the books ever get to the comic shop shelves. So I don't know. It's a conversation I'm not really qualified to have because I've never been on the inside of one of these major comic publishers. This is all speculation. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Um, but yeah, I mean, with any company, right? Like if a company is being absorbed, you know, eventually that company doesn't look like itself anymore. And that is something to be concerned about when you start firing like heads of departments and just not replacing them and stuff. And you just have your own people on it, right? Like if I sold comics are dope, um, you know, and now I just work for, I don't know, what kind of people are out there. All right. I sold comics are dope to, I don't know, Viacom or something. So now comics are dope is really just a part of Screen Rant. It's like comics are dope, a website by Screen Rant. And then, it's me, it's Bunkmaster B, it's Skip, and now they're not just writers, they're editors, they hire other people to write stories and so on, right? Well, okay, yeah, they're editors and they specifically talk about comics, but what happens when like comics aren't really making money like that, but they're still getting full-time editor salaries, right? All right, you know what? We're gonna cut one of these dudes. We're gonna cut Bunkmaster B, replace him with, I don't know, Lois Landry. She's actually, she is the editor for like our food magazine, but I mean, it's just editing. She knows how to edit stuff, right? Um, so now Comics Are Dope has me, Skip, and Lois Landry, the recipe lady. right? And if things keep going okay, they might, take Skip off the board too. Why give the role to this dude that's just talking about comics? This other lady, somebody else. Maybe it's not another lady, maybe it's another guy. Let's call him Mark. Mark Twain. Mark Twain from the Home and Garden division. He's now does home gardening comics, right? And then, either I leave, right? Or I'm fired, right? They're not gonna replace me. Like, for what? For what? Why would they? Like, I've got equity in it. I'll keep my equity in Viacom. Maybe I'll cash it out. Either way, by this point, I've already made whatever money I wanted to make. The people I wanted to work with aren't there anymore. And yeah, so if I'm gone, and the only reason Comics Are Dope still exists as a Viacom website is because, I'm in the meetings like bugging people about it. Eventually, what's going to happen is you're going to go to comicsaredope.com and it's just going to be Viacom.com homepage. And then, Comics Dope doesn't exist anymore. But no one else can use it because they own the website domain, they own the trademark to the name, they own all the articles that we ever published, even though you can't even get to them on the website anymore. It's just Viacom. That would suck, right? But that's kind of the nature of mergers and acquisitions. I was told a long time ago in business school, not that long ago, only graduated 10 years ago, but I was told there's no such thing as a merger. There's no such thing as two companies coming together and being one company with these two identities. There are only acquisitions. And it just takes you a long time to recognize them as such. So it's all happening. It's all going to happen eventually. But right now, I think the Marvel brand recognition is too strong for it to go away. Same with DC, right? Comics Are Dope. Whatever. Only 5 people go look at that website every week anyway, right? But see, joint ventures are different because joint ventures, to me, are two entities putting in something to create a separate third entity that is co-owned. A joint venture is different. But yeah, right, like, and then even a joint venture is only a joint venture until it's not, right? So like, for example, 300 Entertainment, we'll take this in the music industry, right? 300 Entertainment was founded by Kevin Liles and Leor Cohen, and it was like in partnership with Warner, right? And so Kevin Liles starts 300. I want to say they acquired QC, whatever, but it's basically like 300 and Warner is one company, blah, 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 blah. Hey, Young Thug, who basically built 300 with his music, gets indicted, gets caught up in some stuff, right? One of the Migos dies, all this stuff. Cardi B's like not making music anymore. She's got a family. All this happens. Kevin Liles just sold the rest of 300 back to Warner. It's just Warner with the 300 sign on the door. That happens all the time. And so inevitably, one day we'll be looking for Marvel and we're just going to see Disney. But I don't think that day is any day soon. Facts, kicks, teach, preach. Big bank, take little bank. Building. Condos. Skip, I'm on board. Let's do it. Oh, that's hilarious. The story you're painting is a pretty familiar one. Look at stuff like Bon Appetit, Pitchfork, etc. Yeah, it happens all the time. It happened in, sort of news publishing long ago, Remember like Gawker? Is it Gawker? Was that the name of the company? Like just all the time. Let's start a comics company. Call it Bad Idea. Wait, Good Idea. Let's just call it Timely Comics. That's hilarious. Disney Nights and Disney Max don't sound right. Facts. But again, I think because of the way the studios are going, the way the film divisions of these companies are going, I feel like you're always going to have something with the DC logo on it. Comics, lunch boxes. I mean, I can still go to Target and pick up a Black Panther shirt any day of the week. So like that Marvel logo is worth something. The DC logo is worth something. I feel like that's going to stay in the marketplace. I feel like the direct market will fail before Disney lets Marvel fail and before Warner lets DC fail. If comics comes to an end, it'll be because that happened, not because Disney just got tired of losing money on Marvel books. That's how I feel. I feel like they will let the comics stay a loss leader for as long as they exist. To Tim's point, Marvel definitely won't have an edge anymore, likely in 2 years. No more Exterminators by Leah Williams. Or I remember Gawker from the Hulk Hogan lawsuit. Disney Epic kind of works. Yeah. Yeah, Marvel's going in the Disney vault. It won't come out forever. That is great. That is a headline for the sake of a headline. Excelsior bunks. So yeah, I don't know. My problem with all of comics media, first of all, what's hilarious is that the headline said Ike Perlmutter finally fired. But my issue with like a lot of this stuff is like it's just one dude talking. It doesn't necessarily seem like news. So it's like, how much can you really go off any of this information? But I mean, I guess on the other side, that's how people are, making their bones, especially on YouTube. Yeah, there's like no sources on this. It's just some dude speculating. That's all this article is. I shouldn't just say some dude. Like Rich Johnston is, the longest serving digital news reporter in the world. But what? This is all stupid. It's an opinion piece. Skip, I'm pretty sure the guys from TC be pretty happy if Leah Williams goes away. They will, but what does Doc know anyway? Besides how awesome Wildstorm was before Jim Lee let it die in the arms of DC's acquisition. I don't know, man. Example, acquisitions. Where is Wildstorm? Grifter's just a dude in Batman books now. They do have a new Wildcats book out 30 years later. But you see, ain't gonna be the same. But yeah, things just ain't the same for gangsters. Pull that one full circle for you kids. Right. So yeah, man, I don't know, man. I'm not the comic book news and analysis guy. I'm more of like, hey, this comic was dope. Hence the name of my website. So I don't really have any answers for you as to how much longer Marvel's got on the clock before all the receipts come due. Right? Like before somebody's gonna pull all your accounts receivable and be like, hey, pay on these notes or go bankrupt. But in the meantime, I'm just going to enjoy all this product they're consistently putting out. By the way, Quiet as Kept, they're putting out a ton of those, or most of those Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale books are getting gallery editions. So I think the first one I saw solicited was Spider-Man Blue. But they're also doing which one next? Dang, now I forgot which one it was. But I saw at least one more. Might have been Daredevil Yellow is also getting a gallery edition. So if you want to see really big Tim Sale artwork, pre-order that one at your LCS because that's a thing that's happening. Skip says, all in all, it's significant, but don't expect an out-of-business sign on any doors in the immediate future. Agreed. And with that, that's pretty much all I got on the docket to talk about. I got to clean up these papers. I got to stage this video for Dynamite. Actually, I'm just going to do the overview of Supercade. And this unboxing is just going to live on the Hangout. And yeah, so whomever of you is the first to run into the treble and bass channel of the Discord server, the Comics Are Dope Discord server, the Dope Fiends as they call themselves, run into that Discord server, run into treble and bass, and type oonts. You'll get these Vampirella books as a giveaway prize. And I can't promise I'm gonna mail them to you this week or next week, but they'll be yours. So thanks for watching all the way to the end and for being a part of the community. That's how we're doing that. And until next time, that is fun. I enjoy surprise giveaways. Until next time, man, I don't know what you're reading out there. It might be Vampirella in a couple of weeks, but whatever it is, hopefully it's something dope. Stay awesome. Peace.